With the presidential election happening every 4 years in America, there's always a few months of insanity that people like me have to deal with. Now, when I say people like me, I'm not trying to hold myself above anyone else, and I'm definitely not trying to shove any of my views down anyone's throat. But to be honest, I'm entirely done with this whole thing. People ask me constantly who I'm going to be voting for, and regardless as to what you tell them, you're always wrong. But with me, it's different. I'm not voting, nor have I ever voted, and I think this whole system is a stupid waste of time. I don't think we need a president anymore, and I'm going to explain why I feel that way. Now, before I get into it, I want to say real quick that if you're one of those people who hate the younger generation, or anyone else for that matter, because they do not vote, well, I don't really care. I was fortunate enough to be born into a country where I can do whatever I want to do within the confines of the law, and voting is not mandatory. Well, wait a minute, you privileged young kid. What makes you think that you can just pass on this freedom? This is a choice, something that you get to actively be part of and freely decide for yourself. Well, let me ask you a question. When was the last time you looked at the politicians and said, gosh, I'm so proud that I got to choose the people that are up there. I'm so happy that I was the one who voted them on stage. You never have, because those candidates are not a decision that you got to make. They and a group of delegates decided that they were going to run. You had nothing to do with it. Well, we get to decide which candidate we want for each party. Is that so? Because I can recall a few times where one candidate for both the Republican and the Democratic Party had the majority vote and still lost. See, the problem is you don't actually get that choice. You're led to believe so, but you gotta deal with what the delegates want, so scratch that freedom of choice crap that you were giving me earlier. Now wait a minute, Barry. Before you go any further with this, you cannot honestly tell me that your vote doesn't count. Well, I don't actually know, but I do know how this whole voting system works, just in case you may be thinking you make some sort of difference. Your vote goes to a delegate for your state. That delegate decides based on the majority what your state voted. All 50 states then submit those votes and voila, you have a president. Now I don't really care if my vote matters or counts at all. Mark Twain once said if your vote counted they wouldn't let you do it, but again, I'm not saying that voting makes no difference. At least, not in the way you think I am. Let's say your vote does successfully elect you the candidate that you want. Well, what changed? Pretty much nothing. The president's job so far as I've seen is to come on stage and tell us what's going on. Anybody can do that. Do we really need to elect someone for crap like that? Any black suit could walk up on stage and tell us what's going on. News outlets do it all the time. Well, Barry, you gotta take into consideration that they sign peace treaties, and they veto bills, and they pass bills, and yeah, and you know what else they do? Start wars, tax increase, and I know it's not just them. They certainly help out, but they're nothing but a face. They have only as much power as the other branches of government have, and really, this is why it feels like such a waste of time to me. I've just never seen a president change anything. You can bring up small things, but healthcare and drug laws all would have been implemented without. Perhaps with more influence from people like us. The president has the power to speak for America. This is what we agree to when we vote a president in. But nobody is the same, and we all have different ideals. The fact that we know it's impossible for one person to decide what's best for all of us is the major reason this whole setup is ridiculous. And why is it that every single president wants to go to war? Some hide it and some don't. Some promise they'll end the war that's currently taking place, and do they ever? A lot of people will argue that most of our wars are fought over the most petty things. Things that we would have gone to war for 100 years ago, when land was something we killed for. Stepping into other countries and taking their resources and claiming it was because of terrorism instead of what it really is. America is a bully, and we let ourselves do this again and again, and I think this pointless tradition needs to end. The whole thing is a joke, and current politics are more than enough proof of that. The one thing I hate the most, too, is the separation of the parties. You'll never hear this brought up at any other time, but during election time, people are coming to blows with each other over this stupid decision. Who will be the next president? Who's going to lead us to the next war? Who's going to raise our taxes and pull us into another recession? This is what people are fighting over, and the dumbest part is this is the plan. The reason this whole whose side are you on started was so we would get angry at each other instead of being angry at who we're supposed to be angry at, and we fall for it. To me, the president is just a glorified celebrity. Seriously, Look at the presidents. Look at our candidates. These people are celebrities, and they're super lucky because instead of coming from wealth, or being in the fashion world, or on TV shows and movies, we voted them in to be a celebrity. And this celebrity has the most boring TV show in the history of television. Look, I have no issues with anyone who votes, and I have no problems with anyone who believes their vote counts. If you want to contribute, do so, but I'm done dealing with people who look down on others because they don't want to vote. Look down on others because they're voting for the opposite side that they are. If people didn't treat this like it was such a big deal, I wouldn't care that we still waste time on this needless tradition. I'm just really sick of these things, and every 4 years too. It's like if 4 people were trying out to be Santa Claus. 4 fat idiots offer these naive kids of the world candy and toys and happiness, but then when Christmas comes, Santa never had time to deliver.